Hello everybody, and thank you so much for joining me back on my channel, Hierarchy of Reads. My name is Tiffany, and today I'm going to be sharing with you my January TBR, so my ratings and brief thoughts on the books that I read in January. Now, in the month of January, I read a total of 4 books, though only one of those books was in physical copy. The other 3 were audiobooks, and I'm going to go ahead and share them in order of least enjoyed to most enjoyed. Now, my least favorite book that I read in the month of January was actually the audiobook of Three Women by Lisa Taddeo. This book is a nonfiction book which follows the lives of 3 different women and really focuses in on their sexual lives and their sexual experiences. Now, when I heard about this book, and to be fair, I can't remember if I heard about this book from an advertiser, from a publisher, or if it was another, book reviewer. I don't remember my original sourcing of this book. But when I was first introduced to it, I was told that this was supposed to be a really good analysis of women's sex lives, and it was supposed to be, a very kind of representative look at female sexuality or women's sexuality. And though I appreciate the individual women's stories, I'm not discounting their experiences, and I'm not saying that I don't value that. I very much do. However, this book I found to be extremely lacking. For one, I don't think it's very representative of women's sexuality and women's sexual experiences. These are 3 very specific cases. Beyond this, I don't think that the author did a particularly good job at providing any kind of deep look into their stories or any kind of analysis. She told their stories, and that was great, but she didn't really go anywhere with it. She didn't really do much with it. And so I was left very disappointed. In the end, I ended up rating this book 2 out of 5 stars. And honestly, there are very few people that I would recommend this book to. But if it sounds interesting to you, obviously feel free to pick it up. The next most enjoyed book that I finished in the month of January was Dark Places by Gillian Flynn. I have never read anything by Gillian Flynn before, nor have I seen any of the movies based off of her books. I just knew that she was kind of in the mystery thriller genre, and I had no idea what to expect for this audiobook, but I really actually enjoyed it. I don't really have any particularly deep thoughts or analysis on the book, but I did find it to be an enjoyable experience. It did kind of keep me at the edge of my seat, and it was interesting. It definitely kept me awake on my long rides home, so I did enjoy it. I rated it 3 out of 5 stars, and I would recommend this to anybody who's interested in the genre. The third book that I read in the month of January was the only physical copy that I read, and I actually no longer have the copy because after I filmed the review, which I will link in the description box below, I ended up giving it to a member of my cohort because I thought he might be interested in it. So I no longer have the physical copy, but that was The Road to Jonestown, Jim Jones and People's Temple, written by Jeff Gwynne. I rated this 4 out of 5 stars. I really, really enjoyed this book. I thought it was a very informative and valuable analysis of the People's Temple and the kind of cult and Jim Jones as a leader and how temple members were kind of persuaded to engage in certain behaviors and do certain things. Again, I talk really more in depth about it in the review video, but I really found it to be a valuable read, and I definitely would recommend it. And the final book that I read in the month of January was my favorite book of the month by far. It was also I really struggle with pronouncing words sometimes, guys. It was also an audiobook, and that was The Nickel Boys by Colson Whitehead. All I can say is, wow, this book hit me hard, and I read a lot of dark books about human suffering and kind of horrific situations. And I'm always struck by them. I'm always hurt by them because I deeply empathize with people, and I can really, while I'm reading, I really can put myself in their shoes as much as humanly possible without being there. And I swear I can feel the feelings. I can see what they see. I can hear what they hear. I can smell what they smell. And it becomes a very kind of multi-sensory experience for me. But even with that considered, even with my normal reactions to this kind of content considered, something about this book hit me harder than usual. And I don't know if it's because it was an audiobook. I'm kind of new to the audiobook genre, so maybe it was something about hearing this information as opposed to reading it on a page that somehow stirred up more emotion in me. But it really got to me. The Nickel Boys starts off following Elwood, a young African-American boy living in Florida who, through a series of very unfortunate circumstances, gets sent to what is called the Nickel Boys Academy, or the Nickel Academy. And basically this is a school for young juvenile delinquents. So it's a school for children who have been caught, disobeying the law. And it talks about his time there. Now in the book, this school is just a terrifying place of horrors where these boys are subject to things such as brutal beatings, rapes, just generally not being treated correctly. They get locked in boxes out in the sun. So just horrific things are done to these boys. And that was part of what really affected me. But the part that really struck a nerve with me, and I say nerve very lightly because it struck all of them, was the fact that the place that these boys are sent to, the Nickel Boys Academy, is based on a real institution that was in Florida called the Florida School for Boys and then the Dozier School for Boys, that was operated in the Panhandle of Florida. And I was reading the history on this school, and it is the most horrendous thing I've heard. And I don't know why at this point I am shocked that I continue to hear about these things and learn about these things, because I know that our country has a history of horrendous acts, but somehow every time I think it can't get worse, well, I find out that it was worse. So in this school, it started off, I'm looking down because I'm looking at my phone, but it started off in the 1900s, and through its 111-year history, it failed a number of audits and inspections. It was known throughout that whole 100-something years for its abuses and its cruelty. There were bodies found on the property, buried bodies. There are boys who went into the school and never came out. And the thing I think that hurt me the most was the fact that when I was doing the research about the school, it closed in 2011. 2011. Guys, that was yesterday, basically. Again, I don't know why I'm shocked, but I just couldn't wrap my brain around that. I became so angry. Like, I was pissed. I had to stop the audiobook for a second. I honestly, I was shaking a little bit at how angry I was, because just the fact that this school has such a history and they didn't close it till 2011 makes me wonder how many other places or situations are known for horrendous acts and are still continuing on now that I don't know about and that we don't know about and aren't being paid attention to. I'm digressing from the plot of the story, but it really boiled my blood. I became angry, and then the story itself I became really attached to, because now not only was I kind of empathizing with these boys' experience as human beings, but somehow the knowledge that likely these are very real situations that happened really broke my heart. And then the ending of this book, to me, I thought was very, very powerful. I did not expect the ending to go as it did, and I remember I was in my car driving in traffic, and I don't know if I'm just in an emotional state, because I don't usually respond to books like this. I'm not usually a big crier, but I really did cry. It really affected me and impacted me, and it really made me want to kind of be more active about finding out about these kind of situations and doing anything I can to make myself aware and make others aware. It really kind of poked at that kind of activist feeling inside me. So yeah, I really thought it to be a very valuable book. I can't say enjoyable, because it wasn't enjoyable, but it was definitely valuable. And I would highly recommend. I ended up giving it 5 stars, and I think I think it was amazing, and I think I'm now definitely going to read The Underground Railroad by Colson Whitehead as well. So those were the 4 books that I read in the month of January. My reading has slowed down a little bit just because of my studies and my internship and all of that, but I do appreciate the fact that with audiobook I can supplement those books that I'm not able to physically read as much. So yes, if you have read any of these books that I mentioned here, I would love to know what your thoughts were on them. Do you agree with my rating? Do you disagree? And why? Or if you have any books that you read in January that you'd like to share with me that you think I might consider adding to my list, please let me know that as well. Beyond this, I look forward to seeing you in my next video, and until then, be well.